everybody. So today I wanted to do a little bit of an editorial, and I wanted to talk a little bit about spoilers, or spoiler phobia, as I like to call it. Let's start out talking about the history of spoilers, where the term originally kind of started. Where it started was in the 80s, when people could video record sports games, and they would record a baseball game, for instance, and they wouldn't want to hear the end of the game or who won, because that would be the spoiler of the end of the game, which they had already recorded. And you know, in the past, it wasn't even possible to watch something that once it left the theaters, that's it, you're done. And, you know, before video cassettes. And so you kind of just had to catch it at that time, and people could talk about it because that was it, you know, you missed out. And so there wasn't as much a spoiler kind of culture. Well, it started back in the 80s when you could record sports games, but it was never specific details kind of things about said game that were obvious to anybody who was a fan of the teams or knew about the teams. Like, it's not wouldn't have been a spoiler to say that so-and-so was playing in the game, or that it was something about the weather or where the game was taking place, or those kinds of details. That was not a spoiler. It was pretty much just who won the game and maybe a highlight of the game. So that's kind of where it started. It pretty much stayed kind of consistent, and it was more just once you had VHSs, if there was something that was a big moment of a movie, then that was a spoiler, and don't tell people about the big moment, like Luke being Vader's son, that kind of thing. That's a big epic moment. Don't tell people about that. But there was, I think, in general, more of a culture of speculation and talking about things in sort of a free, open way versus this spoiler culture. I watched the old Siskel and Ebert reviews, and they are way less guarded than you have to be now about things like plot points and spoilers and things like that. Nobody really cared as long as you weren't releasing sort of the big event, big surprise, big twist kind of moments. So then it became a point where we had a lot of recording capabilities with DVR and things like that. And so I think there changed a big, where almost anybody could rewatch something, or people were watching it for the first time at lots of different times. And so there became sort of this, well, don't spoil it for me because I still am going to watch it in the next 2 days, 3 days, week, whatever. Whereas I think before, you really had most of the people were watching it on that first watch, with a few people that had taped it or were going to watch it at a later time. It created this, what I call spoiler phobia, where people now consider it's gone from just being the winner of a game to being any detail about any film. And it can be extremely frustrating when you're trying to talk about movies because there's so many things that you can't talk about. For instance, the ending of Batman v Superman really annoyed me. I didn't like it, but all I could say is that I didn't like the ending. I couldn't explain why I didn't like the ending in my review, and I respect that, but I think that it's frustrating to not be able to explain so many things. Like, it's one thing if it's just that one thing, but there are so many things that you can't talk about now because of spoilers. So I want to talk about a couple different things. First of all, people sometimes forget that some of their favorite entertainment has been spoiled to them, and they still enjoy it. So you need to keep that in mind with spoilers. For instance, I was just thinking about the Harry Potter movies. And most people I know really like the Harry Potter movies. And you know what? Almost every single human being had those movies spoiled. Almost any adaptation of any book that you've read, when you see the movie, you know the ending. You know what's happening. You know the characters. And it's still enjoyable. So if you have a spoiler, it shouldn't ruin the experience for you, because you can still enjoy it. You have enjoyed movies that were spoiled, technically. What is the one show that everybody has been completely transfixed on this year, so far this year? It's The People versus O.J. Simpson, and everyone knows the ending to that movie. Everybody knows, to that show. Everyone knows all of the main things that happen, and yet it's really, really good. So it just shows that we don't need, the spoiler thing is a little bit silly. That it's all about what the characters do and the experience of the film or the series. It's not about necessarily needing to be surprised or these details about the story. It's all about how it works within whatever it is you're watching. And sometimes I think you even can enjoy it more. Like, for instance, last year with The Martian. In my experience, the people that read the book love that movie much more than people who didn't read the book. And I don't know if it's just because we have so much more knowledge of the character and what's going on, and we bring that knowledge with us to the movie, and people that haven't read the book, just it's more flat for them. I don't know. But that's just almost across the board. It's people that read the book love the movie as well and were really hyped about it, had in top 10 kind of thing. Whereas the people that didn't read the book were kind of, whatever. And so you can significantly enjoy something more when it is spoiled. That is actual fact. And I think that you have to recognize that different kinds of movies can require different kinds of spoilers. I even admit that there are certain movies that I'd be bummed out if certain things were spoiled. Like if somebody had told me before I saw Empire Strikes Back that Luke was Vader's son, that I might be kind of bummed out, that I didn't get that sense of surprise. But not every moment of every movie needs to be a surprise like that. I think we all can have common sense to know, like, what things are epic moments and what things are just kind of routine and normal. And not everything needs to have that kind of Shyamalan twist, like, that I see dead people kind of twist. Like, it's just so ridiculous at this point. So yeah, you guys know that I'm a big Survivor fan. This season we had a season of returning players. And because these are players that are active on social media and the people know and different things, there was a huge spoiler phobia. And I was really involved in different forums and Facebook groups and stuff like that. And people were so ridiculous about the spoiler phobia with that show that it really kind of turned me off the show for that season. Like, everybody loved the season. That was one of the best. But I just thought it was kind of annoying because part of the fun of Survivor is talking about it and, did they make the right move? Did they, but everybody was so worried that, are you spoiled? Is everything that you say somehow, you couldn't speculate on anything because everybody would accuse you of spoiling when you have no idea what's going on. You have no clue. All you are is guessing from the narrative and from the actions and things, and it's fun to talk about. But because everybody was so ridiculous, it made it not as much fun to talk about. And that's the whole point of the show, is to talk about strategy and why people are making the choices that they do. And it really bummed me out, to be honest. And it even got to the point where at one point I had, in a particular group, I had made a comment about a joke that somebody had told on a podcast that had nothing to do with the results or the outcome or the person being eliminated or anything. I just said, that was a pretty funny joke. And somebody accused me of spoiling the podcast for them, that they hadn't stumbled upon the joke, I guess, themselves, and somehow that ruined the experience. I'm just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I can't make a comment about a podcast about a show at this point. That's so insane to me. I don't understand it. I felt like even in my Cinderella review, I had to be like, spoiler, that's crazy. I mean, Cinderella. Who doesn't know the story of Cinderella? And yet everybody liked that movie too, for the most part. So I think that we've just gotten out of control with spoilers. And I think part of being an adult is enjoying something even if it isn't perfect. And you should be mature enough as an adult human being that you can enjoy an experience without it being a surprise. Why does everything have to be a surprise? I don't understand that. Yes, for certain films, certain moments are better with the surprise factor, but I'd say that's actually kind of the minority. I don't think there's that many movies that are so much better with this huge surprise factor. I don't really get it. I don't really like it. I think it encourages this sort of binge watching behavior because you gotta see it or you're gonna be spoiled. Oh my gosh, that would be the worst thing ever. And I mean, why do we like rewatching films? Why do we like seeing them over and over again? Because they're good movies. Like, it shouldn't matter if we're spoiled. Like, I don't understand this mentality. It makes me crazy. I don't like it. And I mean, I think I try to be respectful and I try not to spoil things, but it just doesn't matter to me. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that we go too far? Do you think that spoilers are that... Do they really ruin a movie for you? And makes me kind of sad if that's the case. Like, I think they could ruin some movies, but I think in general, those movies probably aren't that good of movies. If knowing the surprise is that goes from ruining a movie for you, then it's probably not that good of a movie. Because a movie should be better than a cheap surprise. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand why people freak out about it. So enlighten me. Explain to me why it bothers you so much if it does. If you're with me and you think people are way over the top with it, put it in the comments section below. And thanks so much. Thanks for letting me rant and rave a little bit about this. And I will talk to you. And I will talk to you later. Thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you. Bye.